I might go to Pauline Hanson now and find out. The One Nation leader and senator joins me now from Canberra. Thanks for joining us, Pauline Hanson. I'll come to politics in a moment, but you'd love to see RM Williams find its way back into Australian hands, wouldn't you?
Oh, most definitely, Chris. As Jeff Kennett said, it's an iconic brand. I've bought RM so many over the years myself. Their boots, their shirts, their hats, just everything, bags. It really is. It's a shame to see this possibly go in the hands of the Chinese. Devastated by that news.
I resisted them for years because A, they were very expensive, and B, it was all the young Liberals used to wear them. But when I bought a pair, they last forever. So it's a good investment.
Correct. Yes, they do. It is. Very good investment, good product.
Now, speaking about people of the land, tell me about the dairy industry. Your attempt to set a floor price, you were hopeful you might get there with some Nationals defectors, the coalition-held firm. That's not going to happen. You'll be disappointed about that. But the move from the government then is to get this code of practice into place, which they believe will improve things for the industry.
As you know, at the last sitting of Parliament, I actually stood my ground in getting the mandatory code of practice for the dairy industry. The National Party coalition have set on the hands, and I'll put it in the department for the Agricultural Minister, Senator McKenzie. She actually said that the report was done in 2016. They've sat on their hands with us. Yes, we're going to get it done. It's been 3 years since that last report that was done. Now, they knew that they thought they were going to lose the last election. Did they do anything about it? No, nothing whatsoever. So now she had intentions of saying we were going to bring this in next year in around about June, July. Because I pushed for this to be done, pressure was put on her to put it. She actually sent me a letter, Chris, and I have it here from McKenzie, stating that they would fast-track the delivery of the code, and it will be as soon as possible. I am planning for that to happen by December 2019. Now, she's released it that it will be January 2020 before it comes out. Now, listening to her interview this morning on RN, she's basically saying we haven't got it right. She is hopeless, absolutely hopeless.
Well, this has been an absolute mess.
This issue.
This is Bridget McKenzie, of course, the Deputy Leader of the Nationals. She got a lot of criticism from her own party because of that guarantee to you. She said that the code of practice couldn't happen until next year, but then she guaranteed to you that it could happen by December. Her own party was a bit miffed that she seemed to be dancing to your tune rather than theirs. But now you're saying she's going back to the later timetable. It won't be happening until into the new year.
Well, it's not till January the 2020, and I've got the letter here from her with regard to that. Not only that, Chris, there was a code of conduct drawn up prior to the election, and that was drawn up by the ACCC. A very good and fair document, about 11, 12 pages in it, 11 and a half pages. The one that's been drawn up, drafted in the last sitting of Parliament, because I know the Prime Minister put pressure on them to actually make it priority to get a code of conduct drafted. What they've got now is a far greater document, about 25 pages. The document that's been put out now is superior in protecting the processors, not the farmers. It is an inferior document. It is pathetically written. It was done in a rush. It is not fair and just for the farmers. So I've got to say also in this interview this morning, I'll read this out. When she was doing the interview with the wording, and Saba said to her, she said, the wording has changed. Why did the wording change and who asked for the wording to change? The Minister answered, no one asked for the wording to be changed. Saba, the words must have come from somewhere. The Minister, the legal drafters have interpreted the feedback from the public consultation prior to the election. Now that's rubbish. We've got a completely new code of conduct. Legal drafters do not put their own words in. It is the Minister responsible, and it's policy put before them. They will draft it according to the Minister. She is responsible for this, not the legal drafters, and she's passing the buck.
You can't blame the drafters. They act under instructions, absolutely. So we'll follow that one and see where it goes. Now, I want to get on to the bushfire debates. I want to tell viewers too that we'll be crossing live to New South Wales Rural Fire Service headquarters shortly to get an update on the fire situation. But there's been an ugly debate, Pauline Hanson, over climate change, hazard reduction, all these issues while the fires are still burning. Now, the Greens, in my view, have been idiotic and offensive, some of the things they've been saying. But just in the last few minutes, they've even gone beyond that with their Senator Jordan Steele-John saying this in the Senate just a few minutes ago.
How dare you suggest that our country is beyond the ability of rising to a similar challenge? How dare any of you suggest that in this moment, at this time, it is appropriate to be prosecuting a piece of legislation with the aim of propping up coal? You are no better than a bunch of arsonists. Borderline arsonists.
None better than a bunch of arsonists, he says, of the government, while parts of New South Wales and Queensland burn after 3 people have been confirmed dead. Pauline Hanson, your reaction?
You know, I've heard him make some comments on the floor of Parliament before. It's unacceptable, and the Parliament shouldn't be dealing with this sort of language. He doesn't have an argument at all. The Greens are actually blaming everyone else bar themselves. They need to look at how they've actually tied this country up with native vegetation management laws. They're not clearing the national parks, they're not clearing the fuel load that happens in these areas. Therefore, the fires are more intense. A lot of these fires have been started by people deliberately lighting them, and due to nature itself. So it's a shame, because I don't believe this should be made political by anyone. It is horrendous what is happening. It's not far from my own home. The fires are encroaching on my own property, but also you've got people that have been evacuated throughout the state. You've got in New South Wales, the last I heard was about 160 homes that are lost. You've got North Queensland, fires are raging there. It's disgraceful. You know, the Greens sometimes, I support some of their legislation they put forward, but I think that they are absolutely ridiculous in what they say about this climate change, and you know, we've got to prove them wrong.
Well, the discussion about the climate and how we manage it, if the climate is changing, the extent to which it's changing, we've always got to be discussing that and looking at the evidence. And a lot of people on the ground have been talking about a longer fire season. That's no surprise. We are in the grips of what by any terms is a very severe drought. But it's the false hope they hold out that somehow we can take policy decisions in Australia that will diminish the ever-present threat of bushfire in the Australian summer.
That's correct. Chris, can I bring a couple of points? That we actually wanted to get this book that tells you what the temperatures are from years ago. It was very hard to actually get hold of that book, and they don't want you to refer back to the temperatures that were noted from over 100, 150 years ago, because they were worse then, a lot of those temperatures, than what we impact on our country these days. Another thing is that a child of 10 was told in the school by a teacher just recently that by the year 2050 we won't have any more water in Australia. So this is what they're teaching the kids. This is why the panic, this is why the kids are stressed out. These young kids who shouldn't be dealing with this. We need to look at what these teachers are telling our kids in the schoolroom, pushing their own political agenda on our children and fear-mongering. I think it's disgraceful. So there are things that we need to do as a nation, as a people, to ensure, look, we're looking at the evidence here, but don't push your own political agenda. Don't push your agenda to make some people out there very wealthy because of carbon credits and buying off. And I think we're destroying our businesses and industry, cost of electricity. Pensioners can't even turn on a fan or heating because of the cost of electricity. Businesses are shutting down. It is ridiculous where we're headed. And for Steele-John to say it's due to coal, what a bloody stupid statement to say it's due to coal, because there's no proof in it whatsoever. And when they have burning from municipal waste in other countries, which gives out more emissions than coal does, and they accept that in Europe and in Britain, why the hell are we being criticised for burning coal or sending coal overseas, which helps a lot of countries drag them out of poverty to give them a decent way of life?
Regardless of what's happening to our summers, though, whether they're getting longer, drier or not, we know we've always had this bushfire threat and we always will. The one thing that governments, state, local and federal, can do something about is the fuel reduction. You mentioned land clearing laws and the like. It's not really a federal government issue. It's state governments and local governments. But there surely needs to be a greater focus on this, especially as so many more people are moving into bushfire-prone areas.
They are. Look, state governments and some local councils have actually alleviated the pressure on homeowners to allow them to clear up to 20 or 50 metres from their properties, from their homes, of the trees. They've got to take the pressure off people to allow them to pick up drop timber in areas around national parks, so they can actually take that for fuel themselves instead of saying you're not allowed to touch it. The rural firefighters, and they need more support with ensuring that they have the equipment available to them. They do a fantastic job, these volunteers, but they struggle for the equipment, and people need to get more involved in these rural fire services. Go out and join them. Go and see what it's like to actually give of your time. You probably might enjoy giving that bit of a time and learning what to do with it, and SES workers. So I think these areas, people can help themselves as well. But we will always have cyclones. We will always have bushfires. It's the type of country that we live in. Yeah, it's just how we deal with it and stop blaming the blame game on other factors. It's not the case at all.